I believe that one of the reasons why U.S. is supporting Ukraine is because as long as they're keeping Russia busy over there, then Russia can't support Iran in attacking Israel. Now, if Iran attacks Israel, we're going to give them the support that they need because all we're sending to the Ukraine is money. I'm sorry if this video is a little bit chopped up. I was still going to do some more editing on it, but I wanted to get it out as quick as possible now. And I'll get the finished one out later if you want to watch it. But anyways, let's go. Hey guys, I discovered this video and it's got some really interesting stuff in it that I didn't know before, haven't seen anywhere else in the media. So I thought I'd like to share it with you. Here we go. Very good, girl. Very good.
Wait a minute.
طلع الكلب تبعها بالشارع طخيته أنا بعدها كان في واحد بالجنينة.
المدني هذا اللي كتبته كان معه سلاح؟
لا.
Well, Daniel, appreciate you taking the time today. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Israel, but I want to start with the world's posture towards Israel, particularly America's posture. What do you make of the changes that we have seen of late and how Israel is being addressed?
Well, I want to put a couple of things in perspective. So we are on day 171 of this war. It's been 171 days since October 7th. That is the longest war for Israel since its War of Independence in 1948, 1949.
Yeah, I had no idea that this is the longest conflict ever since Israel became reestablished.
And frankly, the Biden administration has not yet said stop fighting. But we are getting the last number of weeks and few months an increasingly hostile and questionable rhetoric from the administration. So it's increasingly disturbing and disconcerting. And so Hamas has been rejecting ceasefire deals left and right, for example. They're probably thinking, well, we have the Biden administration on our side, putting pressure on Israel, not putting pressure on us.
What does that victory actually look like?
One is to return restore or rescue the hostages, return them to Israel. And there are currently about 132 still being held captive in Gaza. So return them to Israel. The second objective is to dismantle the Hamas political and military infrastructure in Gaza, not just so it returns but in a degraded form, but is unable to perpetrate an October 7th invasion and massacre again. And the third, kind of more general, and this also brings us to the border in the north, is to restore security to Israeli civilians, Israel, the border communities in general. And the way to understand this war, it's not just another round or operation between Israel and Hamas. This is a war for Israel's survival. And that Israelis in many ways are fighting a second war of independence. Because if Hamas is able to perpetrate October 7th and Israel's unable to then destroy Hamas, then essentially that means is anybody can actually attack the Jewish state because they're the Jewish state and get away with it.
And of course, people in America are looking at things through an American lens.
That all changed on October 7th. So Israelis are unified as never before in their purpose. And right now in Gaza, it's a very difficult battlefield. It's a very difficult front. It's unheard of, unlike any battlefield in essentially not even modern military history, but military history writ large. To give a sense, Israelis are fighting the perfect battlefield that Hamas has spent 17 years developing. And Hamas took over and then 2006 won elections, has been controlling the Gaza Strip ever since, the last 17 years. And they spent billions of dollars that the international community, including American taxpayer dollars, have been funneling there to build this network of tunnels underneath the Gaza Strip, totaling about 350 or so miles, which is even longer than the New York subway system. So they've been building a perfect battlefield. We're having command and control centers in hospitals. We're seeing just a few days ago, as we record this, late March, about Al Shifa Hospital in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, that the IDF conquered, essentially cleaned of Hamas terrorists and discovered tunnels leading up to it. But then Hamas reconstituted itself in this hospital that the IDF had another pitched battle a few days ago and captured hundreds of Hamas fighters, killed a few dozen as well. But they've been spending 17 years building this battlefield. It's very difficult. It's an on-ground, it's a below-ground battlefront. and also they're fighting among the civilian population, about 2 million civilians in Gaza, so it's an extremely difficult battlefield. But right now, the threat from the north is much more significant than the threat from Hamas ever was, because Hezbollah in the north possesses between 150 and 200,000 rockets and missiles, many of which can strike throughout Israel. And the morale is very high. And there's also a sense that, again, kind of getting back to our first part of the conversation about the turn against Israel in popular public opinion in the international community, Israelis are kind of saying, we don't really care because we're fighting a second war of independence.
What is the risk at this point of that northern border exploding into something?
It certainly is. And then let's put things in perspective to a few different degrees. October 7th was the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust, a horrific thing. However, it did not threaten Israel existentially in the same way from a military perspective that a war from the north would. But from a purely strategic and military perspective, the threat from the north is far more significant. It presents perhaps an existential threat to Israel. And there's been a lot of activity on the northern front. By activity, I mean rockets, RPG fire, small arms fire, drones coming in from Hezbollah. From Israel's responding with airstrikes, with artillery strikes, with also small arms fire as well. So there's a lot of activity. I mentioned earlier, we are seeing a war between Israel and Hezbollah. From Israel's perspective, since 2006, the last war, Hezbollah has reconstituted itself and developed its capabilities probably tenfold. I'm not sure the exact number, but significantly. One thing Israel needs to do is to try to find and take out as many rocket launching sites as possible. But like Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah also perfected the art of embedding itself among the civilian population, digging tunnels potentially underneath the border into Israel. So we must be very vigilant about this. And I'd ask, as a Jewish person, to everyone out there who can support your Jewish friends, colleagues, neighbors, whomever, please do so. And this is an issue that's not just facing the Jewish community, but facing all of America, because, like I said earlier, they come for us first. The Saturday people come for the Sunday people next.
Well, Daniel, I so appreciate you breaking this down. We want to have you back again as time goes on. There are going to be developments, things we need to break down and talk about. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Billy. It's been a pleasure.